Hey y'all, I hope you're well. I'm back again for another episode, and today I wanted to talk to you about there being no shame in needing to change. There's no shame in the pivot. It's more a question of really evaluating and accepting the season of life, of health that you're in, right? So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Odessa. I am a womb wellness coach and a doctorate of natural medicine. And I just want to share some of my love and passion for this work that I do. And so, the focus of my conversation today is around those women who are high achieving, those women who have their womb health issues that they're dealing with, those women who may have children, right? So it's a variety of women, but there's also an aspect of wanting to experience a softer life, right? The people who I tend to work with usually have an aspect of edge that they are looking to soften up, an aspect of themselves that they are wanting to connecting to. But the issue is that they don't know how to activate this part of themselves, right? Another aspect has to do with the type of work. I work with a lot of women, people who work in corporate. And working in corporate means that there's a level of hustle culture that you need to subscribe to. There's a particular timeline that you must subscribe to. And if you are someone who is feeling a level of frustration within yourself because of your inability to slow down, because that's what you want, but you're not quite there yet. I think you might understand what I'm saying. It's important for you to consider that you may just need to unplug. You may need to learn how to unplug from the matrix to create and facilitate a pathway to the change that I think you may be looking for, right? Um, the issue with this that I understand is that, like, what comes with this change? You know what I mean? Like, what is it that is going to happen if I give into this change? And what is this change? You know what I mean? So the change that we're talking about deals with that needing, wanting, desiring a softer life. And as a womb carrier, as a woman, it we would say that it requires leaning into the feminine, leaning into being softer, leaning into you know recognizing the influence that you play in exchanges within your relationships, within your nucleus of the home, within the external environment of social curriculum, as well as work. So over your spouse, over your children, recognizing the role that you play. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take on a traditional role, right? It's just recognizing the role that you play as someone who was born with a dominant female hormonal system. There's a certain like level of there's a certain cyclical pattern that you're locked into by virtue of that, right? When you lean into when you're unsure about that softness, there's usually also an aspect of wanting to maybe dream differently for yourself, be in a different space for yourself. You may have desires to do and be something more. And there's also that level of wanting to be softer and more intuitive, like, what are those things that my family has told me, that my grandmothers have told me, that my aunties have told me, where do I stand in this? Like, what is my understanding of it moving forward, right? So, um, riding the fence is usually the first response. You feel the urge to shift, to change, there's a buzzing around you. There's activity, there's your regular everyday activity, things that you're doing, picking up your children, dropping them off, taking them places, or maybe you're just working, or maybe you're tending to your spouse or your community environment, your community, like you're busy doing all of the things that you're supposed to be doing. But the thing is that you're feeling called to do something, and you may know, usually people know, that there's more to it. And if they don't know that there's more to it, they can feel that something needs to shift and change. And because it's different from the stability that you've established for yourself, right? Working in this particular environment, creating a particular persona to interface with this environment, so that you can be successful, be it through your corporate work, be it through your home environment, be it through the trauma that you've experienced, right? The idea of moving into newness creates a level of uncertainty that makes a lot of people ride the fence, right? Um, and so, it's like you're approaching it and it's like, what is it that I have to do? Maybe I should start looking into doing these kinds of things, but you're so preoccupied with your everyday living that it's not a priority. It's not one of your values. You don't really believe it's something that's achievable for you right now. Maybe later on you can explore these things. Or maybe, it's just not something that you have the time to think about. And so it goes on the back burner, so you leave it alone. You know what I mean? Like, don't answer that calling. Or maybe you do approach what transitions you are feeling. Maybe it is that you're waking up and you're feeling exhausted. You're waking up knowing that you didn't sleep very well, you didn't fall asleep well, you were sleeping intermittently, and you really do want to experience waking up and feeling healthier, feeling rested, right? So you start to look up, Google, ways to sleep better, herbs to sleep better, how to use melatonin, foods to increase sleep habits, how to stop insomnia, you know what I mean? How to stop anxiety. You might begin looking at these videos and taking some information from them and maybe changing one or two things in your regimen, in your daily schedules. And that's really what I wanted to pinpoint. It's changing one or two things in your schedule, and what it is that you're doing, because it's like, okay, I want to give space to this, new aspect of myself, maybe, but, you know, I'm only going to choose one or two things, that feel safe, that I feel comfortable and confident with, which is like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's the erratic nature of not being consistent with whatever it is that you try. You do something today, but not tomorrow. You forgot, you don't feel like it. Or maybe you're going to sleep earlier. Maybe you're cutting out one cup of coffee, or whatever it is that you have seen as a hack or as a tip or a trick for you to start addressing those issues. I have a lot of women who also talk to me about this pain, the chronic issues in their bones, like you're not feeling like you used to, your body has changed. And, there's a level of, aches and pains that you're experiencing that you're trying to avoid giving space in your everyday life. So whereas you're avoiding it, it's screaming in the background, or making it difficult, starting to make it difficult for you to do certain things, So it's like, how much do you ignore? How much do you engage in? You know what I mean? What is it that you're willing to consider doing, right? And so, as I was mentioning, the result of this is, wanting to potentially, like, really and truly, you don't really think that you're going to make these changes. You don't really know if you're going to step into this newness that you're feeling, because really and truly, like, you have a schedule, you have things that you're doing, you're very comfortable, and it takes a lot to make any kinds of transition and any kind of change, right? So what season are you in? Are you even able to recognize that? And if you're not able to start unplugging and take note of what's going on around you, then what happens is these small changes that you're implementing, you're actually not getting results. So those digestive issues that you've been suffering with, you did take something today, you didn't take it in the evening time, though you forgot, and then you didn't take it the next day, but you took the day after that, and you're wondering why you don't have any changes, why you're still feeling bloated, gassy, you know what I mean? Why your bowels are still the way they are. Well, not being consistent, being erratic, and not having it as a priority, right? It's not a value. It's not something that you think that you need to do or take seriously, because you're still riding the fence, right? Before we move into winter, you know what I mean? Fall has to end, and then there's a level of transitioning that we have to go through before it becomes officially winter time, right? And so it's that, transition season of like, okay, we know that something is coming, or you might perceive something is coming, a change, or a deep feeling or desire or an urge, but you may not necessarily be responding to that, right? So you might still be waking up. You might still be waking up at night. And that is annoying. Not being able to fall asleep, not being able to, slide into slumber, waking up intermittently, especially if you have children, especially if you have young children, especially if you are experiencing infertility, especially if you are experiencing irregular cycles, if you have any kind of womb health conditions, reproductive health conditions, thyroid conditions, and you are not sleeping regularly. You're not going to bed, you're waking up erratically, you're waking up and you're not feeling rested, and then you've got these drops during the day, riding the fence, and sometimes setting a nighttime routine, sometimes, taking the melatonin, sometimes not taking the caffeine at 4 p.m. You know what I mean? Sometimes doing that is not going to help your circumstances. It's not going to help your ovulation issue. You know what I mean? It's not going to, help the fact that you're waking up and going to work, the man's job, and your body is exhausted, right? It's not going to work. So there's more frustration that happens. There's more frustration, and there's more disbelief in this idea of like, okay, well, maybe I don't really need to try this because it's just whatever right now, because it's easier to pop a pill. You know what I mean? It's easier to just kind of continue with what you're doing. But what happens is that you begin to throw those ideas to the side. So that deep yearning, that those feelings that you have to give more to yourself, to pour more to yourself, doesn't get nurtured. And what we need to understand, and it's been said often, especially if you start listening to doctors like Gabor Mate, sorry, so, the syllable, when we're carrying trauma in the body, things that, we've been saying for a long time, but it's so great to have, very established medical professionals confirming their own personal and clinical experience. When you're not doing the work, when you're not answering the calling, your body absorbs the suppressed experiences, and these create blockages because it's energy, motions, experiences that need to be fluid and move around, right? And so here is where some of those aches and pains, they actually can get exacerbated, right? And also because you have decided that, committing to food changes, committing to, sleep programs, committing to slowing down for yourself and learning how to nurture and care for yourself is not a priority. And so your aches and pains continue, and they increase and they exacerbate, right? Your approach is logical, Your approach is logical. I take this and it works right away, right? As opposed to understanding that there's a little bit more involved when it comes to wanting to connect to those more nebulous experiences that being softer also requires. Okay. Um, there's a level of instant gratification that we're looking to experience. And this is such a it's a huge problem. It's a lie that we tell ourselves. You know, this is a process. There's layers and levels to it. There are many benefic results and extremely rewarding experiences that come from it. Um, it's just if you're doing this knowing that you're not committed to actions that will create a compound interest, then you know you're not going to get the results that you want to experience, right? That aspect of, acknowledging what season you're in and feeding yourself what is needed can't match the desire that you have, right? Your inner and outer are not matching. And so this is where we ride the fence, right? And so you, by not recognizing that importance, you are also not owning uh, your sovereignness, you're not owning your sovereignness, right? Um, and you are not being a steward to your body, right? Because we are born here into this experience and we are given these physical bodies to steward, you know, on a micro level and on a macro level. It's our homes, it's our environments, it's the planet itself, right? They self, however the planet identifies. Um, and so by not recognizing and giving yourself that permission to acknowledge the season that you're in and the season that you're approaching and the process that needs to happen connecting you from one to the other, right? Then you don't do what it is that you need to do and you begin to do the opposite, right? So you will ride the fence, you will start doing erratic things, never commit, and really like stay engaged in what it is that you've been doing, stay and deeply involved in corporate culture and in linear logical timelines, you know what I mean, and getting caught up in what life has told you need to do. And let's not, take things out of context either. I have 4 children, and so there's a lot of requirement. 3 of them are under the age of 10, right? So there's a lot of work that comes with that. There's also much to be said about a mother who feels more nourished and more cared for, and having poured back into herself, and answering those deeper calls and deeper yearnings if the needs of the woman require her to slow down. Remember, ladies, we have many different cycles that are happening at the same time, and listening to what the body needs is important, and not just for ladies, for people in general. It's important to trust yourself, learn how to trust yourself, right? We will tend to doubt, we will tend to allow anxiety to take over, we will tend to allow our minds to run away, we will put ourselves into the corners of the calendars, we will put everyone else first, we will ignore the pains, we will ignore the intuition, we will smile when people tell us, things that we already know, we will remind ourselves to do the things that we've told someone else to do, you know what I mean? But, society isn't sympathetic to you or empathetic to you if you are unable to perform at your work. You know what I mean? If you are not able to show up because you're not well psychologically, you're not well emotionally, physically, your body has decided that, it's time for an intervention, go and see the doctor because you weren't taking care of me, right? Emphasis on the you're not taking care of me, right? Um, then it's a rude awakening, It's a very rude awakening. When things seem to be going our way, and I actually just had this conversation recently with somebody, when things seem to be going our way, going very well for us, and we have a deeper urging or a deeper calling, or we're making the decision to do deeper work, what happens is things start to shift and change the paradigm. If we're really open to it, the paradigm begins to shift. And so you must either accept the process and move through with it, or you choose to ride the fence and deny the work that needs to happen, avoid it, ignore it, you know what I mean? Or act as though you're naive, right? To it. So if any of this resonated with you, go ahead and let me know in the comments below, hashtag replay, and tell me what your takeaways from this particular talk, this particular episode is about. I would love to hear from you. And if you're looking for any resources, I would love to invite you to go to my website and download the free emotional centering meditation. And feel free to join our newsletter. And if you are looking to have a conversation, I would love for you to take my wellness and womb activation assessment. This is going to help you understand what gaps you're experiencing in your healing journey right now, and how you can cultivate this aspect of yourself. And then what happens is you get a score. You bring this score to our call, and we just have that strategy conversation to talk about how you can best set yourself up for the best kind of transition ever into this newness, this softness, this more aware person that you are always becoming and will be. That being said, I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to be back. I will return, and we will have more conversations. So you all take care wherever you are, morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.